The winter of 1957 in Philadelphia carried a sharp, relentless cold that seemed to settle into the streets and linger in the quiet corners of the city. But nothing in that bitter season could compare to what was about to be uncovered in a remote, wooded area of Fox Chase,
where the silence was broken not by the wind or the rustling of trees, but by a discovery so unsettling it would echo through generations.
It began innocently enough, with a young college student wandering slightly off his usual path, curiosity guiding him deeper into the brush.
Until something unusual caught his eye. A small cardboard box, abandoned among the tangled undergrowth.
Out of place and oddly positioned, as if someone had left it there in haste. And at first, it seemed like nothing more than discarded waste.
The kind people overlook every day, but something about it felt wrong. A quiet unease that lingered just beneath the surface.
And when authorities were eventually called and the box was opened, the reality that emerged was far darker than anyone could have anticipated.
Revealing a young boy, vulnerable and unresponsive, with clear signs that he had endured significant hardship, his identity completely unknown, his story erased, and in that moment, he became known only as the boy in the box.
A name that would soon become synonymous with one of America's most haunting and perplexing unsolved mysteries.
The child appeared to be between 4 and 6 years old, small for his age, undernourished, with a frail frame that told its own silent story of neglect.
And his hair had been recently cut, unevenly, as if done quickly and without care.
Possibly in an attempt to alter his appearance and make identification more difficult. And as investigators examined his body more closely,
they found bruises, scars, and marks that hinted at a life filled with pain. Each injury raising new questions.
Each detail adding another layer to a mystery that refused to make sense. Because the most chilling aspect of all was not just the brutality of his death, but the complete absence of his identity. No missing person report matched him. No family came forward.
No one recognized his face despite the widespread attention the case would soon receive. And it was as if this child had existed entirely in the shadows.
Unseen and unheard until the moment his life was tragically cut short. Detectives immediately began piecing together every possible clue.
Starting with the box itself, which was traced back to a bassinet purchased from a local store.
A small but potentially significant lead that investigators hoped would unravel the mystery. But like so many threads in this case, it led to a dead end.
Offering more frustration than answers. And as the investigation expanded, authorities distributed thousands of flyers,
featuring a reconstructed image of the boy's face, hoping someone, somewhere, would recognize him. And the public response was overwhelming, with tips pouring in from across the country, each one carrying the faint possibility of a breakthrough.
Yet none providing the definitive connection needed to identify the child or uncover the truth behind his death.
The case quickly captured national attention, becoming a story that haunted newspapers and lingered in the minds of those who followed it. Not just because of its brutality, but because of its mystery. The unsettling realization that a child could suffer so deeply
and yet remain completely unknown to the world. And as investigators worked tirelessly, they explored every angle,
interviewed countless individuals, and even turned to unconventional methods, including consulting psychics,
in a desperate attempt to find answers. But despite their efforts, the case remained stubbornly unsolved,
slipping further into obscurity as time passed. Though never entirely forgotten. Among the many theories that emerged over the years, one of the most disturbing came from a woman who claimed that the boy had been purchased by her abusive mother
and subjected to horrific treatment before his death. Her account filled with chilling details that seemed to align with the evidence,
including the boy's apparent fear of water and the circumstances surrounding his disposal. And for a moment,
it seemed as though the case might finally be nearing a resolution. But as investigators dug deeper, they were unable to fully verify her story,
leaving it suspended in a space between possibility and doubt, another lead that both illuminated and obscured the truth at the same time.
And as the years turned into decades, the case grew colder, the evidence aging, the memories fading, yet the mystery endured,
resurfacing periodically as new generations of investigators revisited the case with fresh perspectives and advancing technology.
The passage of time brought significant advancements in forensic science, offering new tools that had not been available in 1957.
And investigators began to re-examine the evidence, conducting DNA analysis, revisiting old witness statements,
and even exhuming the boy's remains in an effort to extract new clues. And while progress was slow and often painstaking,
It eventually led to a breakthrough in the 21st century, when the boy was finally identified after decades of anonymity. A moment that brought both relief and renewed sorrow. Because while his name could finally be spoken,
the circumstances of his life and death remained shrouded in mystery, the answers still just out of reach.
the story of the boy in the box is more than just a true crime case. It is a haunting reflection of society's blind spots, a reminder of how easily the most vulnerable can be overlooked, and a question that lingers long after the details fade.
How could a child endure such suffering without intervention, without anyone stepping forward in time to save him?
Without anyone noticing that he was missing, and as you imagine that small cardboard box in the cold, quiet woods, it becomes impossible to ignore the deeper horror, not just of what was done to him, but of how completely he was abandoned.
Reduced to a mystery rather than remembered as a child who lived, who felt, who deserved protection and care.
And even now, as investigators continue to piece together fragments of the past, the case stands as both a warning and a plea.
Urging us to look closer, to listen more carefully, and to ensure that no voice is ever lost in silence again.
Because somewhere in the shadows of that winter day lies a truth that has yet to fully emerge, waiting patiently, hauntingly, to finally be revealed.
And until that truth is uncovered, the story of the boy in the box will continue to linger.
A chilling reminder that some mysteries are not just unsolved, they are unforgettable.